Good afternoon. All right, so I'm Black. Call and response, really important to me. Good afternoon, y'all. All right, well, we're getting a little bit better. Hopefully, we'll continue. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Leticia Brown. I am really blessed and proud to be on this stage with some amazing folks who happen to be women. And we've sort of joked a little bit that we've adjusted and shifted this talk, Psychedelic Healing for Her, Women's Health Frontiers, just to sort of ask this question and problematize this idea of what does it mean to be a woman, who gets to be a woman, how does that show up in this space, and especially given the world that we live in right now, what does that mean, especially if we're inviting in an idea of gender expansiveness. But we'll come back to that. Mm-hmm. I want to open up the space to invite folks to introduce themselves. I'm Black, I'm queer, I'm femme. I am the granddaughter of Urban and Bessie. I am also the granddaughter of Leonard and Evelyn. I am the daughter of Carol and Lawrence, and I am a mom to my fur puppy, my fur baby, Maxwell. I'm also a Pisces sun, Aquarius rising, Leo moon, and I often sit at the altar of Black feminism. I often hold that and think about that as one of my spiritual practices. And being in these sort of spaces, in conference spaces, not as much, I think, at the Oakland Psychedelic Conference space, but lots of other spaces people will lead with their certifications and their trainings and the professional things about why they're here, when the reality is that if you're here, you're supposed to be here. And in order for us to have this space and this circle with each other to talk about things that matter to us, often we want to invite in that sense of purpose and knowing of who we are, separate from what's on a piece of paper or some letters behind our names. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Courtney.
I'm Courtney Watson. I am Black queer mother, friend, sister. I'm 82 years old, for real.
I second that.
On the inside, I'm an elder. I enjoy life. I enjoy laughter, eating good food, beach vacations. My big three are Sagittarius sun, Aquarius moon, and Virgo rising. And I run a couple of businesses and do some things that I have a couple letters behind my name.
I want to invite, before I say much more, I want to invite the folks who just came in to join the circle. We have room for you, so please take your space in the circle.
There's some empty seats, too. This is...
Right.
Is that Melva on the camera? Is that Melva? You could bring her a little bit in the middle. Yeah.
I wish you were up here with us, Melva.
Hey.
Hey.
She got her own little seat.
Oh. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Deidra Somerville. I introduced myself yesterday, and I'll do it in similar fashion today as the great-granddaughter of Boston Kemp and Mary Kemp. I'm going to great-great-grandparents, sorry. of Boston Kemp and Mary Kemp, of the families and clans of the Kemps, the Fields, the Burgesses, and the daughter of Gwen Sexton and Frank George. I also am Black and queer. I am a mother to 4, godmother, daughter of Oshun, daughter of Obatala, and I oftentimes find myself interrogating womanhood. I did so in my dissertation. I do so generally in life. It starts with me. It starts with me interrogating myself. Who am I? What am I? How am I? And my foremothers and all that I embody of who they are. I'm constantly in interrogation of that. And it's that interrogation that's brought me to this space, I think, with all of you and with all of us to talk today. And I'm happy to be here with all of you.
Yay, me too.
Same.
I just wanted to say, everybody came into the circle, but if anybody has somewhere they need to be, don't feel shy about leaving the circle as well. I don't want you to feel trapped or, if you don't like what's being said, something about the energy doesn't sit right with you, or you need to potty or get some water or do whatever, take care of yourself, please do so. My name's Akua. My friends have started calling me Dr. Akua, which I really like.
You gotta honor that.
I forget sometimes. I think you came up with that, and now it has stuck, and it's the way I introduce myself in the world sometimes. I am, I'm silly today. I'm a sister, lover, friend. That's where I wanna be. It's that pretty brown, round me wild. I am new to the stage, but not new to the psychedelic space. I've been working with psychedelics since I was a club kid. I also call that working with psychedelics because it helped me introduce me to opening my mind space, traveling through space and time, feeling, hearing, seeing music, building community and trust with these medicines. And then as I grew, in what I needed from this medicine space in becoming a physician, which was the way that I could move into the healing space in order to support others in their journey towards a happy, healthier life. I became a co-collaborator, and I also call myself an enabler. I'm enabling you to have the best life possible on this planet that you can. In that work, I learned other uses for psychedelics and plant medicines and drugs. Let's just say it. Let's be straight about it. About the psychoactive drugs, as Dr. Carl Hart said, winds that have an effect on our perception, mind, and spirit, to help me not just reach outward and grow community, but also reach inward and downward to connect myself and root myself into my wholeness, my strength, and to the earth, and also to reach backwards and to show love to all of those ancestors, to speak with them, to sit with them, to tell them that that I know that they are with me and I am their child, and to also reach forward to help to make positive change and positive way in the world for the generations that come, that will come behind us. So that's a little bit who I am, who I'm feeling today, what I'm feeling today. Yeah.
I feel like we should let you guys know that we're friends.
Oh, yeah.
Because we tried to pray in the back, and it was so unserious, and I led the unseriousness, and then Akua followed, and then we couldn't get it together. And so I just think that we need to put context to the conversation that you're gonna have, that you're gonna hear. There will be a lot of laughter and jokes, and pick up the pearls of wisdom, because there's also a lot of wisdom and joy and fun and having a good time. And I don't know how we're gonna be on the stage together and not have a good time. And so I invite you all to be a part of that in your own way out there, to bear witness to that, and also know that that doesn't discount anything that we might be saying. And I invite you to explore how you can take in wisdom through joy and laughter and fun and silliness as well.
Yes.
That's about as serious I'm gonna get on this stage.
Join us in our kiki with
Yes.
each other. Speaking of which, one of the things that we were sort of back and forth around was like, what are women's health frontiers? What makes it a frontier? Is it because ain't nobody checking for us and this is new, but it's not? Is it the idea that there's something that's new coming for women in particular? We ended up getting to a huge conversation about blood. We'll talk about that a whole bunch. But just this conversation around, I just left a talk where there was this conversation about how traditionally and historically, the folks who often are stewarding medicine and holding space for that have been women. And now, when we think about where we are in 2025 and how a lot of folks don't actually know this, and whenever we have any of these sort of conversations, we don't have a psychedelic healing for him, men's health frontiers, right? So what does that actually mean when we're putting this emphasis and this focus around women in particular, and also who gets to be that?
Who is her?
Who
Is her.
is her?
Who is her?
Psychedelic healing for her. So I'm gonna actually open that up to the panel. What comes to mind for you around that? What sort of conflict did you have with yourself around this topic and the title of this? But this idea of who is her? What gets brought up for you all when we say that?
Why are you looking at me?
Because you were the one that started. I feel like that was a direct quote from you.
Who is her?
Who is her?
Who is her? Who is she? And says who?
Yeah,
It says
right?
who.
Yeah, says who. Who is her? So I was assigned female at birth, and I have been raised in the loving arms of Black womanhood. And for y'all, those of y'all who don't know, it is a sisterhood of support and love and upliftment. I don't know, is that a word? Upliftment?
Y'all, they knew what it meant. Y'all know what
all
it
right,
means.
so make it a word. It's a word today. And my sisters are often the ones who remind me to straighten my collar. Where's Roz, who was just doing that for me earlier today? To straighten my crown, to hold my head up high, to put that doctor in front of my name, to claim my space and power in this world. And so I do not want to diminish that in any way by saying that also I know that the tenets of what it means to be a woman in our society today were in direct opposition to that Black womanhood that I was raised and nurtured and fed with. And so knowing that I knew I did not have a place at the pinnacle of white womanhood. I don't want to, I love all my sisters when they love me. But in the pinnacle of ideal womanhood, I was never going to be that, and I realized I was a lot more than that. I didn't want to narrow myself to fit into that box of what it meant to be a woman, which allowed me to look at myself in fullness. I've been misgendered. That also is part of being a Black woman. I don't know. It's happened to me. It's happened to all y'all. I mean, like, yeah.
It is a thing.
And I realized that there is not only the feminine in me, but there is also the masculine in me. And sometimes those genders that were put upon me were correct in the way that I was putting myself forward in the world, but then also incorrect, because even in the maleness and the femaleness, there's still more. There's still more. There's so much more to what this being is in this planet, that her ain't enough letters. I think that's what I was trying to bring forth in our like pre-convo, you know. So frontiers of health. What are we called?
Healing for her.
Healing for her.
Healing for her.
Yeah, I want it to be maybe the her in all of us, and the he and the they and the God and the divinity in all of us, as we move forth into this frontier, which means nobody's there, or
Well, it depends.
colonization hasn't gotten there
who's doing the
yet.
frontiering,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because usually frontiers are new to the people who find them, but
Yes.
not to the folks who were there
That is
Right.
correct.
beforehand.
That is correct.
And we talked about frontiers as a space of violence as
Yes.
well, and like coercion and enforcing and forced conformity. And there was a time period where I was really thinking about gender for myself, like, am I femme? Or do I, and the question I had was, do I identify as a woman? Because that was the only option that was given to me. And particularly at that time, I was doing a lot of research in pre-colonial West Africa, and the fact that gender binary definitely wasn't a thing, and the ways that we think about gender and gender norms are absolutely not a thing. And I went into this inquiry, even if it was a political inquiry around my gender, because I was assigned female at birth, most likely by the doctor's assistant, right, that says, okay, vulva, and the clitoris is small enough to be considered a clitoris, so that is a clitoris. But if it was like, 1 in 100 births in this country are for intersex people, and if the clitoris was bigger, then I might have all of my labia minora majora cut off and be forced into sexual reassignment surgery, right, as an infant, which happens to most babies that are intersex. And so I just went into this inquiry around gender. I landed that femininity and what it is to be female does resonate with me. But it was a space that I was curious about for a couple of years, just because this is a gender system and a sex system that is colonial. And that if there was no colonization, the ways that I would think about and conceptualize myself as a being would be completely different than what I have today. So.
Yeah, all of that. I also think about the fact that we oftentimes are, particularly as folks assigned as women or birthed as women, we're oftentimes in spaces where we are forced to make a space for ourselves in secret, or in spaces that are not openly accessible to others because of the lack of access to space. I'm thinking about Mother Catherine in the Ninth Ward in the 1920s, who founded what was called the Temple of the Innocent Blood. And because she was refused health care, refused support, refused even love from men in marriage, she through spirit understood her assignment to be a healer, and took that assignment and founded what was one of the largest Spiritist churches in New Orleans. And because she created a space that was for those who were discarded, those of the innocent blood, meaning the children who were generally out of wedlock, and their mothers, who everybody came. And so that's our story, I think, in a lot of ways, as in this body and in this time space continuum, is that we oftentimes anti-frontier, and that anti-frontier creates space for others to have a space to heal. And I think that's what we create even in this space, in terms of the psychedelic space. We create spaces that are oftentimes, because of other spaces that are harmful, we create spaces that are expansive, do invite others to be among us in ways that don't cut off their ability to be themselves, but we do that because we need to be ourselves fully, right? So I think that for her, we are the ones that do it for her. We do it for her and him and them and all of us. And so we oftentimes are the one that lifts all boats. And I think that's been out of necessity. It wasn't because it was a cool idea. Oh, I want to be nice. What it would be nice to just create a church, the Spiritist church on the edge of the Ninth Ward that might help people and build it. Let's see. That might be interesting. No, we did it literally because we had no other choice. So that's often our story, I think.
But it makes me think about this idea of masculinity and femininity, or what it means to be feminine and what it means to be masculine.
Yes.
And I think it was another reason why I went into inquiry was because I heard so often, like, you act like a dude, and it was because I was unapologetic, because I was sexual and unapologetic in being sexual, and I didn't give a fuck about people's feelings. And that not giving a fuck about people's feelings part was actually trauma. It was not masculinity.
Come on.
But the way that I carried it, right, it was like, you must, and what does that say? Like, if I can name that the reason I didn't give a fuck about people's feelings was trauma and not masculinity, then what does that say about masculinity and the way that we think about it now? Like, maybe it's actually just trauma and it's not masculinity, right? That's that emotional piece. But that, too, was in my story of having to process, like, what does it mean to be female? And so often there is this movement in the subculture in Black nationalism that's like the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and it's binary. And I was thinking this morning, I'm like, that's just white supremacy in blackface.
Come on.
Really. It really is. And I have a conversation with my cousin all the time. He calls me a cracker feminist, and I love it. There's 3 Ks in it. I'm very proud of it. Because we engage in these conversations, and I will not submit. I will not be gentle. I can be gentle, but not when you're going to be saying some dumbass shit. No, I'm going to tell you that you're dumb. And somehow that becomes masculine, or it's whiteness. And like, no, actually, if anything, that's what Black motherhood is, right? That is what Black womanhood is to say, sit your ass down. You don't know what you're talking about, right?
Right.
Right, and then like make you some food while I'm over a pot. Like, that is Black femininity. And so, like, really, when we're thinking about the ways that the gender binary is in some of these Black subcultures, right? Particularly in some of the Black subcultures that are in the psychedelic space. Like, I feel like it's the perpetuation of white supremacy and blackface, and it's not actually what Blackness is or what Africanness is. Because if we do, then that means that we look at African traditional religions. That means we look at Congo religions. That means we look at Ifa. That does not necessarily mean we look at Islam, right? Because Islam was also, it was a religion that came from the Middle East or Swana area and then started to spread through Africa, right? Like, we really go to the indigenous religions, and then we see what the women there were doing. And the women there were warriors, right? They were the hard asses, so.
Come on, y'all can appreciate it. Y'all can appreciate it.
And it's okay if it makes you uncomfortable. You don't have to take it.
Yeah, like wanting to lean more into this false binary, right? That, like, if we were to put feminine characteristics and masculine characteristics, so-called, into boxes, where would emotionality go? That's a real question.
Feminine.
It should be.
Should be. It should be, right? Logic.
That's masculine. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah.
I agree with that false activity. Like, even white women. I mean, my students had to teach me I was Hispanic. We were going over like Spanish cultural month, and they're like, "Ms. Gilbert, you said you're from Spain, right? Your family?" I'm like, "Yeah, like you're Spanish." I'm in my 30s learning this by So I agree. I think that like our lives are definitely teaching us this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Please.
This is what we want.
This is a conversation. This is
circle.
why.
That's why we're in
we
the
have this
circle.
set up. Which, if folks are able to invite folks into the
There's a
circle
couple
more,
of
if you
chairs
can,
up
there's some
here.
chairs right here.
The
But also,
circle
like,
is
I think there's
absorbing you. Please join the circle.
Resistance is futile.
I think that there's a binary between emotion and logic as well.
Really appreciate y'all. We didn't expect as many people as we got. Courtney,
Hey,
you were
John.
talking about the right. Like, I'm gonna tell you about yourself. I'm gonna give you some good truth, but I'm still gonna love on you. I can see you, even if I'm not speaking to that. All of those pieces.
You might want to check the phone. There's a little notification on it.
There's some on the phone. Yeah.
So, Courtney, you were speaking to this binary that we hold between logic and emotion. Both
Logic
can't
and
exist,
emotion
right?
is the binary too. The way that we have gender as a binary, and then we assign certain things into discrete categories based on what we think about gender, and then those two things are also binary. You cannot both be emotional and logic, right? And then one is good and one is bad, right? So too with masculinity and femininity. The undertone is that femininity is bad and masculinity is good.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me, though, in my learning, is that intelligence is not considered a binary trait in the masculine sense, but one that is birthed out of a feminine identity that is shared with masculine identity. So that's what's so interesting to me, is that when we really look at what African culture teaches, it doesn't teach that intelligence is something that's born from what a man understands, what a man learns, what a man thinks, or how a man thinks, but that really it's a really honestly connected to and embedded within what is birthed through a feminine understanding, but also shared with all identities. It's not just something that's born and shared and hoarded through some kind of binary kind of process. So I think we have a lot to learn, and I think that's how we understand when we understand Black womanhood, that we do see and learn through this idea of us being maybe the origin of a thing, but not the carrier of a thing, but not the only source of a thing that is shared. And I think that's how we carry our wisdom, is through sharing and understanding that we're not the only ones that have access to knowledge and wisdom, but that we actually have to learn how to be in community with other folks. And I think that's something that's not shared with some other communities, that we do share that.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Akua?
Do we answer who is her?
We did. Mm-hmm. I think we did answer.
What about the frontiers? Because you were talking about the frontiers as being a place of violence. And I know that I also see a frontier as a place of where two different places are coming together, as sort of like a watershed, as a place of diversity, of a place of creativity, as a place of where if you are of the grasslands and also of the mountains, the places where those two things come together as a frontier of sort of creation and not necessarily violence or destruction.
But if I was to think about a place of creation coming together, I would be thinking about something blending together, and there wouldn't actually be a hard line of this and that. And also, I just keep on thinking of Davy Crockett when I hear frontiers. So I'm like, maybe I can imagine it as something different, but I'm just thinking about somebody like cutting bushes and like, we're going into the wild bush and like, I just think of it as a place of violence from the ways that I think about frontier in terms of like what has happened in the United States. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But borders aren't real. We know
They are
that.
not real.
So,
no, and the frontier was never real. That wasn't real either. It may be so too for women's health frontiers. You know, like we were talking about menopause, and in med school you get a book chapter. Well, maybe not med school. Maybe you get a little bit longer than a book chapter, and
No.
that's very sad.
A chapter?
A chapter, right?
Chapter? Question mark?
Right.
Maybe a page, a paragraph, a short,
Right, a little bit.
One year without a period is menopause. Period.
Right.
So there's a sentence, maybe.
That is correct.
There you go.
Yes.
And in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, they have encyclopedias. Like they have entire multiple books about this thing that is menopause, not even just menstruation, but menopause. And so like I'm saying, like maybe the health frontiers is not something that's realistic either, because we will go do research here over at Yale and be like, look what we just discovered. And then the Chinese are like, well, if you look up volume 3, you will find that there. Thank you for finally coming on board with what we have already known.
So that idea of frontier, that idea of newness, that
Right.
idea of discovery is
Right.
where the lie is, where the false.
Yeah, and that goes back to who's telling the stories of what is and what isn't. And, you know, there's so many ways we know that from way back we have all of this knowledge of things. Even thinking about, there was something I heard yesterday, I forgot what talk it was, but it was something that's been discovered now of this thing. I'm like, my great-grandmother used to say that all the time. Just who pays attention to what we say, and who pays attention to what it means for them, right? Who's got the platform and who's got the microphone and who's listening, you know?
We do now.
We got the mic.
What? Check.
For those of you that are new, we made this announcement that we are friends, and you will see that, and that's going to be part of this conversation. So,
Yeah.
Key with the key. There's another piece that I feel like you were guiding us a little bit to, Deidra, where in this conversation we were talking about how, right, even just the idea of health, like what does that mean? That it's not just the absence of disease, right? But it is also the experience of pleasure and joy and fun. And this idea that when we're always talking about being in these women's spaces and what does it mean to be a woman and to heal, is that our healing isn't about needing to heal from our womanhood. Oftentimes in women's spaces, we have to heal from patriarchy, oppression, marginalization, which is not inherent to who we are, but it is about the place that we are located and this attempted power being taken away from us. And so I'm wondering if y'all can speak a bit more to this difference between leaning into the power of your womanhood versus having to fight and push back against misogyny and misogynoir. They got answers.
she said your name first.
She did.
Oh yeah, Deidra. I did hear Deidra up in there.
Oh gosh, it is a loaded question, and it's sometimes it's a thing we do so much that we don't even think about it, which is really part of the problem with kind of contextualizing it within this space and with all of you here. I think about my great-grandmother, peace and light to your spirit. She was what we call a catcher and a treater. She was somebody who used to treat people who were ailing, and she used to catch babies. That's what they called them back in the day, right? She was one of the women I grew up with, and I always acknowledge her because she taught me a lot. And before I think about her, I think about my mother, who would never nurse my grandmother because of the invention of the formula. And so even
Your grandma wouldn't nurse your mother.
she wouldn't, because she was, even though my great-grandmother helped my grandmother birth my mother. She did it in all the folksy ways with the herbs and wrapping and all that stuff. I've been told the story many times, but when it came time to nurse, her white doctor, when she, went to the hospital, and my mother was there with her. She was like, your breasts are basically dirty, and you have to take this breast milk because it's more, this formula because it's more sanitary than your breast milk. My grandmother told me this. So this is not hearsay. This is what she told me she was told. So these things, so even reestablishing a sense of connection to our bodies literally is what we're fighting for. And still, even now we talk about the movement to reclaim our bodies, and this is constantly happening. It's intergenerational. It's a formidable challenge, and so it's like just so embedded in so many things that I think about, so many things that I think about for myself and for my children, both my daughter and my sons.
When I was breastfeeding Isaiah, who was born in 2017. His dad, who I'm not partnered with right now, told me, I can't wait for you to stop breastfeeding so you can give him real milk. And I was like,
Right.
How? The cow? The cow, the milk from the cow is real milk, but the milk from my body is somehow not real milk.
Right.
And not what this human baby actually needs. What the human baby actually really needs is the milk that's for cow babies.
Right.
And then I just started calling milk cow baby food from then on.
Yeah. Had the same reaction from my family. They're like, girl, you got to give them water because you can't give them breast milk and not give them water. It's like just that's the visceral kind of thing we have to fight. Just what should be a very basic thing we have to fight. And so when we talk about plant medicine and reintroducing plant medicine and to our communities and reintroducing this idea of health and healing within that, we are literally fighting ourselves to get to, or the selves that are trying to be a part of communities that want to love us but have been loving us under pretense of trying to accept these norms that don't align with who we are.
No, and those norms don't align with anybody. Those
Right.
norms are about capitalism. It is like, here, let us give you this thing that we got from these dairy cows that we forced to live in terrible conditions and then
Right.
turned into formula, and then make you buy that. But actually, if you want to give us your breast milk and sell it back to us, right?
And we'll give it to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this while being wet nurses too.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
Exactly.
just
That's our
just
history, right?
So when we talk about getting to the medicine, we got to wade through these waters, right, of things that really mark our relationship with our bodies, with ourselves, and with the earth, and all of what she offers us. All of it's, to me, all contained in this idea of the pushback that we oftentimes have to navigate.
So resisting cow baby milk,
Yes.
eating
Yes.
more plants. Right now I'm also actively in the practice, and I could use y'all's support of resisting capitalism. I quit my job a couple years ago. Yep. I'm just gonna just put it all out here on the show. I quit my job a couple years ago. And
a good
yes,
doctor.
woo!
That's right. That's right.
And I haven't-
Unemployed and unbothered.
Yes, and that's what I've been
friend
trying
calls
to
it
live
fun
into.
employed.
Yeah, fun
You're
employment.
fun.
My
You
fun
were so fun
employment.
employed. Weren't you just in Florida last week? You're fun employed.
Don't ask me how I do it because I don't know. I'm living on spirit.
grace of
I'm living on a
God.
wing and a prayer. But it's been 2 years and I haven't had a job and I don't want one. That doesn't mean I don't contribute to my community because I
Right.
am a physician, and so I do have some knowledge that I want to share with the folks around me. Y'all know you can call on me anytime.
She's our doctor.
I am the family doctor, the community doctor. I do not know everything, but I might know
be talking to
somebody
my
who
own
knows
doctor.
something because I'm primary care, so I'm good at referrals. That's the place where I find that I'm reclaiming my power in this world. Maybe I would love to grow food like you do, weave, yarn like you do, our 82-year-old bake bread like you do, make tinctures.
All these women
do witchy
things.
shit. But right now, I'm doing the rest shit. And so I would encourage all of y'all to lean into rest, lean into falling out, let things fall apart a little bit. And I promise you, based on my own example, you will be all right. You will be all right.
But
You'll
I
be
do
all right.
think that we have to think about class with that too. You
What
know?
class? You think, I mean, I've been poor. That's
I'm
why I'm
not saying
comfortable
that you
being
haven't
poor.
been poor, but you're also a doctor. If things really fall apart, all you got to do is call Kaiser and then
And say, please take me back.
I got them credentials.
you will.
Please, Kaiser. Please.
I think that, you know, there is something there, but I do also really want to follow your lead in that trust.
Yeah.
You know, that trust and also that faith that, like, I have the skills necessary that if I really need to monetize something, I can find something to monetize. And capitalism is set up for us to not monetize our skills and not to do the things that bring us joy and to only do things that will deplete us and basically build up the wealth of someone else, right? And
That
so
is correct. Yeah.
all of those things. And yes, you are also a doctor.
And yeah, okay. That I will admit that I do have some educational privilege. I do have something that I can fall back on, even if I'm unwilling to. And I know that in the zombie apocalypse, somebody will take me because I have
she's
skills.
ours. She's ours.
Sorry.
When shit falls
Sorry.
apart, yeah, I do got some skills.
You all.
That is true. And I'm willing to share those skills with you for not money, or for money,
Yes.
But they tell me I need to ask for money, and for not money, so that we can also grow in community. Because if you got something I need, like, shit, my garden is like money. My garden is a mess. My car is the kind of bumper is falling off a little bit. I could use some food. I really do I like food. So yeah, I mean,
She likes food,
I do
y'all.
I like food. So I want there to be an openness to the way that I do receive
Right.
resources in this world,
Right.
and recognizing that we're still in a
Compensation doesn't have to mean a dollar bill.
That is correct. That's correct. So
Yeah, even just watching you do this thing made me think about this other thing that can happen for us where we either out externally, the things that we do, the skills that we have are often devalued, or we are often underestimating
yeah, our
who
power
we
and our
are,
skills
whose
and
we
who
are, what we
Yeah.
are, what we bring to the table. And again,
Yeah.
that's not inherent to being a woman or assigned female at birth, that we make ourselves small, right? That is in relationship to a world
Yes, that has told us to be small in order to survive.
in order to survive.
Or the things that you guys can do well, or, I mean, not saying there are only certain things that women do, but people, period. The things that you can do well are not the things that you should be doing. What you should be doing is what I'm telling you to do. And that is go and work in an HMO or a major system and like destroy yourself seeing, how many patients did you have on your caseload?
20 to 24 patients a day.
Yeah, see, 20 to...
And care,
doctor
care,
doing that
care.
back in the day.
Yeah,
They
and
had
care
their
for
little...
each of them. Yeah, I want
Right.
to come to your house, and
With
you
the little
we have tea,
bag.
and I bring my bag,
Right.
and we sit across the table from each other for a
Right.
while, and then maybe we go out in your
That's
garden.
like 3
and talk
patients a
together.
day.
At maximum.
Boom.
Yeah, but the system is made to eat us apart, and so
Right.
I want to encourage us to divest from that as much as we can, and
Absolutely.
lean on each other to fill in the gaps, because we are actually what fuels these systems. They cannot function without us, and we have the skills that are needed to help keep the world moving forward. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Like, yeah, somewhere between valuing myself and valuing all of y'all, and not giving a fuck because it's time to sleep too. I
Yeah.
love sleep. Yeah.
Getting all your hours back from med school
All my hours.
All of them.
and residency. And Kaiser.
Ooh, and Kaiser. And Kaiser. Speaking about this piece with regard to the opposite of devaluing ourselves, stepping into power, your own power.
Menopause. Sorry.
Yes.
Hey, boss.
And being able to come back to that. I know one of the things that we talked about was throughout our lives, the relationship that we have to the things with us that are put into that category of women things or feminine things, right? Our relationship to bleeding, our relationship to how we, I think Deidra, you spoke to this, right? The connection coming back to our bodies, being able to care for our bodies and seeing our bodies and even the blood that comes out of our bodies and how we move through all of that, right? Not as this dirty thing, recognizing it for the power it is, right? It's Sunday. In Christian circles, he has risen.
Yes.
And in many, many, many
By the
churches,
blood.
it is the blood of Jesus, right? That saves us. But blood from us, blood from my pussy,
Yes, maybe
is a
that's really
problem.
maybe that's why they say the blood of Jesus, because they had to give Jesus our blood, and or like the power of our blood, in order be like they know how powerful menstrual blood is, right? Like we were having this conversation. I love my period. I love to be like, because it's like a monthly assessment. Like, what's going on? Ooh, it's a little chunky. Or, ooh, that's bright. She's clear.
Crimson,
Okay.
that
I'm having a good time, right? Like, just this ability to do this assessment. And, like, menstrual blood is so powerful. It literally is a thing that feeds babies. If we were going to be pregnant, it would stay in and it would nourish the egg so that it could grow, right? That is the thing that feeds what eventually becomes a baby. And maybe that's part of what the blood of Jesus is about, is co-opting the blood of women.
Listen,
Ooh, you say that on Easter Sunday?
I don't
listen,
care.
Jesus knows. Jesus
I was in
knows.
church with
Jesus
my
is
back
like,
out
they
earlier
right.
today.
They right. It was women who said he's not in this tomb,
Look,
right?
yeah,
We're the
that's
messengers.
true.
They were the
women,
ones who
yeah,
were with the
it was
good
Maybe it was
news.
Mary that said the blood of Jesus when they rolled the tomb back and he wasn't there.
He is here.
Mary Magdalene.
Right?
I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch.
We
I wasn't there. It could have happened.
stretch it. Yeah, can y'all talk a little bit more about your relation? How is it that your relationship to plants, plant medicine, entheogens, psychedelics, drugs, whatever it is that you want to refer to them as, how has that allowed you to tap into that power that you know is within you that is not just of you?
That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, when I was listening before you were finished talking, I was thinking about like cycles of bleeding, aligning with cycles of the moon, aligning
Yes.
with the time that our earth keeps and the movement of water, of the oceans and the tides and that sort of thing. And then you said psychedelics, you said drugs, and I was
I
like,
know, I got
ooh.
thrown off by that part too.
Well, you
yeah.
can stay with the calendar
I
and
like
the
that.
cycles.
I like
and the,
no, but I like it though, because it is about that same connection, right? Like it is another way that we can find to tune into the rhythms and the messages that are happening above and beyond and around us when we are letting. I find my best times in the psychedelic space is when I can soften those edges of my ego to be able to be in connection with the voices, the energies, the circles, the people, that are living around us, that are existing around us always. So I think that is just another way that we can lean into those cycles and to be to be able to listen and do a check of how things are going and where am I in this echolocation of what's happening in the universe. I don't know. That's my sacco woo woo.
Yeah, when we were talking about this earlier, I shared how many folks here started their periods super early if you are born assigned female at birth?
Well, what is super early? Because every year it gets earlier.
Like 9 years old?
Oh, no.
Yeah, single digits, I guess.
Single
would
digit
be
people?
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, I was 9 too. I was 9, and it was tough. going into this idea of, well, first of all, I was the only one, of course, that dealing with that at that point in time in my life, with my people in my world, in my class, all of that. So having this identity as this thing that I didn't understand at first was like really weird, right? And then the more I embraced and understood and accepted that as part of who I was, I started to build my idea. It was like my first teacher of my learning myself. That's what menstruation was for me from a very young age. So I started to learn to listen to what it told me about what was good for my body, what wasn't good for my body, what was good for my temperament. What was the thing when I did this made my cramps less bad? What was the thing that when I did this made my sleep a little better? What were the things that I had to learn to be more attuned to my selfhood? So it was like an early teacher for me and gave me a sense of myself at an early age in a way that nothing else did. So I guess that was my first experience of really being centered in what some idea, I didn't know it was centering into my power. I just knew it was centering into myself. And so that was really an important thing for me, facing a world where I had a lot of things that told me I wasn't supposed to be there, wasn't supposed to be myself, wasn't supposed to feel good about being this dark-skinned, girl with full lips and all the things, and developing early and all of that. There's a lot of things that shut that down, but something inside of me kept telling me that wasn't the whole story. And part of that was based on being a menstruating girl from a young age.
So I had shared with you all this, parable? Phrase, statement, something, sage advice or piece of knowledge that I heard, and it's that when a girl menstruates, that's when she starts to know her power, and then when a woman faces menopause, that's when she becomes her power. And so, like, what you said just really validated that. Is like, really, like, that was the place where you really started to get in tune with what was happening in your body and really starting to know and how to adjust to kind of situate yourself. And also, there's so much negativity about menstruation. There's so much negativity about blood. Like, literally, the commercials about tampons and maxi pads show some blue shit. Like, nothing blue comes out of anybody.
No.
Right?
Not so far as I've seen.
No, right?
And use a doctor, so you would know.
So the fact that, like, we have all this stigma, and maybe if there wasn't this stigma, and maybe if there was the fact that we were having these types of conversations with girls when they are 9 and when they're 10 and when they're 11, they get to do that process of knowing themselves through their body. They get to do that process, not hearing that it's bad or it smells fishy or whatever, but like really being able to fall in love with their periods and what their periods are teaching them about their own bodies. And like really going through that process of allowing that to be the thing that helps them learn their power. And then when we get to perimenopause, look, it is, it is, it is. I mean, and I'm young. My mom she started perimenopause at 35. And so, like, I'm 38, and I'm in that process of, like, starting perimenopause, and it really is this process of, like, learning and how do I communicate, and like I had this mood swing and I want to let everybody in this house have it, but that's actually not fair. And what's actually like, let me distill down and say, oh, this one thing is the thing that I'm really, really upset about, and it's absolutely valid. So how do I start having conversations with the people that I live with about this thing that makes me upset so I can solve for it, so next month I don't want to like flip tables.
Drugs. What about drugs?
No, or just open communication, sober, sober communication with people. I don't think I need drugs for that, but it really has like that shift, that growing around, and I think that that's the medicine for me and my mood swings. It is medicine. It does require me to like stop and take an inquiry and say like, what actually? For those of you that are in the back, there's some blank spaces, some chairs up here.
Yes, because we opened a circle.
But yeah, what is it that's actually happening for me? And even me learning myself, I'm like, oh, I'll suppress things up until the point where I can't suppress it no more because now my hormones are like, bitch, we're mad, right? And so like now we mad. But actually have not communicated this thing to my child, or I have not communicated this thing to my partner because I was suppressing it. So I had to learn how to stop suppressing things when they were bothering me. And lo and behold, I haven't had mood swings because I haven't had nothing to be mad about, because I've been talking about the things that I needed to talk to throughout the month. That's the medicine, right? That's the medicine of mood swings. That's the beauty of period. And this is why I love my period, and I love what this period of perimenopause has to offer me, because I'm gonna be a bad bitch when I'm done. You're not gonna be able to tell me nothing, because I'm gonna say everything I need to say right when I need to say it.
Yay.
And I can do it lovingly, and I can do it in a way that we can still stay in relationship with one another. And I wonder, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if that's part of becoming my power.
Y'all can clap for that. We sort of jokingly, not jokingly, said that we were going to shift this title or give it an additional title of The Power of Periods, the Frontier of Realigning with the Cycles of the Earth. Because we had this conversation about how the calendar was created.
Yes.
Like, we were able to track what seasons we were in, what time it is, all of these things by paying attention to what's happening in women's bodies, right? And now we have this calendar that tells us that winter is in a period of time where, like, the New Year's in January.
The middle of winter.
In the middle of winter, and we're supposed to start anew, right?
That don't make no sense.
And then added additional months for Julius
Adding
Caesar,
additional months, right?
And because they wanted to have their names.
Because
up
they
in
wanted
the-
their
in the
names,
calendar
right?
and stuff.
Patriarchal kinds of power. But with that, I do want to open it up. I know that there was a little bit of audience interaction, but I want to open it up for folks who might have thoughts, comments, questions.
Oh, and be careful, because after we have this discussion, maybe though many of those of you who bleed might start bleeding, because how
we
many
did
folks
that.
has it affected on this
Okay,
stage?
so fun fact.
Talk about the power of periods, child.
Periods.
We all
we
bleeding
called
up
her
here.
in.
We called her in and she showed up. It's pretty funny.
Yes, she has.
I didn't start bleeding.
3 out of
yet.
4, so we got 3 out of 4.
Yeah, not me.
Soon
But normally
come.
we sync up. This is weird. 'cause
Soon
we
come.
normally- Oh, you're right before me.
Here
and
we
then I
are.
have my period right after you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
It's been
beautiful.
like this for years. That's a good question.
That's a very good question.
I mean, you didn't answer I finished your question, but I mean, I think it depends on some of the traditions that you're a part of, right? And like some of the medicines that you're working with. I know when I went to the jungle and I was bleeding, they were like, we can't even see anything, right? The abuelita was like, her moon is so strong that I really can't even see what's happening. And I was like, yeah, my moon is strong. She's been doing this for decades. She can't see nothing, right? But there are also, like, you know, there are entities that like blood, and so you really have to be careful with your blood. You really have to be careful with your blood when you're opening up portals. And that is not my wheel. I'm not the expert in what entities like blood and what when you do and do not. But even outside of plant medicine, like different traditions believe that there are ceremonies that you do when you're bleeding, and there are ceremonies that you absolutely can't do when you're bleeding. Right? And I used to think, man, that's sex negative, but as I have kind of grown and matured, it's not necessary. Like when I hear them say, like, this is about protecting you, right? Because it's the strength of the power of the blood at that time that I just have to let those elders that know what they're saying and just believe that when they say that this is protective of you, to think about that. Because when you started talking about this intersection of plant medicine and menses, I was like, I wonder if I could do a journey while I'm bleeding and then make the intention of my journey to like take a deep dive into my blood. And I was like, that kind of sounds dangerous if there's entities that like blood. And I don't know who they are, how to protect myself from them, particularly because I don't know anything about those types of entities. So I'd say be thoughtful and be careful. And if you're interested, you can find out more about, going to those elders and asking specifically about when there are contradictions. Usually when I get contradictions, like you can't do this when you're bleeding, I'm asking a lot of questions. Sometimes the people that I have got that contradiction from have been men, and so there's only so much that they can give me, and I'm like, this is not helpful, right? This is why my elder is now a woman. So we can have these conversations in more depth and detail. But yeah, I think it's something to be thoughtful about, and also period blood is not something to play with. Like people are doing like very cute things, like putting their blood in their gardens, and you have to be careful about that because you will bring things to your doorstep that you're not planning on bringing.
Yeah. How many of y'all are familiar with an old, very old thing that I don't know, maybe it's for folks 50s and up, of women who would use their menstrual blood
Oh,
to...
it's
That
spaghetti.
ain't old. I mean, it's old, but it's new too.
Spaghetti. Spaghetti.
Spaghetti, putting your...
It's a very Louisiana thing. If you want somebody to be your husband and never leave your side, you put a little menstrual blood in the spaghetti and then you feed it to him. And I mean, I have conversations with my partners if I am menstruating and we gonna do it. I'll be like, look, let's have a conversation about this because this might be forever. You getting it straight from the source. I'm not even putting it in spaghetti. We need to be thoughtful about it. And like maybe let's take our time before we make this commitment, because it's a commitment.
Looking out for you.
For both of us, because you also don't want to like engage in that practice with somebody, and it's not somebody that you really want to be in your life forever.
I have divined for those people,
Right.
and it is ugly.
And you got somebody attached to you, and they don't know why they're there, and you don't know why you're there, and you both wanted to stop, and it just won't stop, but you decided to get ate out while you was bleeding. Like, maybe that shouldn't have been a thing that you did. Or maybe some people don't do that.
No, I mean, I was like, I didn't know you could get stuck. You can get stuck.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very old tradition. I was taught that tradition when I was 14 by my grandmother and my mother, about that possibility. Huh?
Would not eat spaghetti. Yeah,
That's right.
red sauce. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Any etouffee, forget it.
Yeah.
Etouffee,
Uh-huh.
in some cases
Not
jambalaya.
made by a woman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was taught that. I was literally taught that by my family when I turned a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So did we answer your question? I went around the bend. Sorry. Raised by hoodoo people, so I go around the bend often. Sorry, I'll try not to.
Other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns that are showing up for folks? Yes.
I just want to extend my appreciation to even opening up the conversation around just cycles in general with women. I feel like it's not talked about enough. So having this conversation right now is making me be like, yes, thank you. Conversation with like other people. 'Cause I'm from Michigan, so back at home, I have a sisterhood group that's what we talk about. Right? But then when I see clients back at home, I'm talking about their cycles and what that can mean, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Right.
And I go, oh my gosh, where's the education around this, right? So you start your cycle as young as 9 years old. I know for a fact in elementary school, there is no teacher that's talking about your period. Sorry,
No.
it frustrates me.
This is also the importance of intergenerational friendships and communities as well, and like bringing girls and children into the community as well too. So like they're learning at different points and levels. I mean, like some of this stuff I could read a book on, but it's really dope when I get to sit down and you the one that told me about them herbs.
Oh, word.
Yes, and those they was very helpful.
What herbs?
There was it was like some Chinese medicine evaluation that you could do online, and I was skeptical because it was online. But when they wanted to take a photo of my tongue, I was like, okay, it's a little legit,
And what the herbs help with?
It helped with my mood swings.
Oh,
But they
cool.
specifically Elix. I highly recommend it if anybody is perimenopausal or struggling. So you know about Elix too?
I got now in my bag because I'm bleeding.
Really helpful. It's really helpful, and she's so much older than me. Thank you so
No, I
much.
know. Shut up. This is the intergenerational, multi-generational right here. Right here. Yes, you may.
But I want to say, first of all, thank you. I love y'all.
We love
We
you.
love you too.
I learned so much, and I'm the oldest.
You are the oldest in our group.
Well, Michaela's the oldest one.
Yeah.
But I'm the oldest. And they didn't talk about this shit when periods when I was coming up, and I looked like this. So
Right.
I had a hard time. And
Yes.
so when I sit with y'all, we talk about, I get all giddy and shit. I'm like, what the fuck about? And I act like I'm the youngest one.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something to be said about intergenerational, about sharing knowledge. Thank you, Courtney, for saying that. I mean, you're my boss. I learn so much from you sometimes. I be wanting to say, oh, I wouldn't want to talk to her. And it's not because of you. It's because of how I've been socialized.
It's the 82-year-old lady inside of me. Yes.
But I just wanted to thank y'all for just bringing this up. And I have so much hope, and I'm so glad that your daughter has you.
Yeah.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? And so I just wanted to say that because I didn't have that. I came up hard, And so I just wanted to say that as I leave the building. But I love y'all, and thank you. This film is awesome.
Oh, we love you too. We love you too, Roz.
Yeah, postmenopause on my ass.
That's right.
I haven't wet in 10 years.
Watch out.
Right. 'Cause we gon' see.
Love you.
Yes. Word.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Look, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I mean, when it comes to plant medicine, sometimes we have to be careful with our kids. I think that if you're from a lineage and a tradition that knows how to dose kids, and they've been dosed from whenever time, and there's like structure around it, and people will be like, "Oh, kids in Amazon, they get medicine." There's still a structured experience. It's not like people are just getting medicine willy-nilly. I think that those of us that are trying to reclaim traditions really need to be thoughtful about it and probably need to do research and consult with other communities that have a practice of dosing kids, because you can blast some of these kids wide open. And then, I'm like, thank God I didn't open up until I was 33 because the floodgates came in, and I don't want to do that to my child. Right now, I don't think she's ready for that. I want her to be able to live her life. And then whenever her time is, right? And so when I'm thinking about when or if or how my daughter is gonna experience plant medicine around her menstruation, I'm going to the jungle. I'm going to places where dosing happens for children, and I already have some of those relationships, and I'm going to be engaging them in those conversations to really understand what that looks like, to understand the risks, the benefits, and those things. My children are Korean, and I work with a Korean mudang, and one of the things that she said is, I was like, when should I get the altar ready in this? And she was like, nah, She's like, no, not now. Let kids be kids, right? And so, going across different generations and different traditions to really see when it's time to open them up to other worlds, because kids are already so close to it, they might not necessarily need it. But in terms of the rites of passage around menstruation, I created my daughter's rites of passage. I already have people that are selected that are going to be there. We have the location, and her dad knows, even though I hope she just gets her period when she's with me, so we don't have, because we ditching school, we're going to be out, right? And we're going to attend to this thing, and you're going to learn the power of this, and you're going to rest, and you're going to be taken care of, right? It's going to be a whole thing. And yes, we can have rites of passage that we do for en masse, but also if there's no access to it, you can still create it for the girls that are in your life yourselves.
I feel like there was a question over here.
That's a good question.
For folks who maybe didn't hear, this question was around how do we identify men who are safe? The fact that we have to ask that question in the first place.
He doesn't have a glint in his eye when he talks to you.
He doesn't have a what?
A glint in his eye when he talks to you.
Like a I'm attracted to you, or like a
You can
I want
see
power
it
over
in
you?
somebody's
Yeah.
eye,
Yeah.
the tone, the way they talk to you, the way they cock your head. Like that to me is automatically, it's like that's not it. You know, I'm not gonna do it. And I don't think that's to say that you can't work with someone and they be attracted to you, but it's their job to manage that. And if you're not managing it and you're not getting a check and I'm just meeting you, then that means that no, because the onus is not going to be on me to check that. That's your sexuality. That's your sense of attraction. That is on you, right? And so, yes, the glint in their eye, I haven't had, I'll talk to other people in the community around them. And has he asked anybody to be his second wife, his third wife? Yes. Oh, he asked you to be his second wife? Okay. Not the one, right? Because I don't think that there's anything with people having multiple wives. I think that there is definitely a problem with people having multiple wives that are people that follow you, that are people that look up to you. I personally believe that. Maybe there's space for that. Can't you go find you a wife that's on your level, that's outside of this situation? Right. Nobody on your level wants you. It's only the people that follow you that want you? Right. Okay.
So I heard you say, one, how I would translate that to me, because I don't know what a glint is necessarily, but listening to your gut. So like listening to that intuition inside of you when you meet the person. If it's telling you something is off, then it's not for you. And then two, talking to other folks in the community who you trust who might have worked with that person. Is that a good representation of
But you can also, it's like, hi.
Hey.
That
Linger.
no,
That linger.
yeah, linger.
That eye gaze linger.
Yes,
The
yeah.
up down.
Yeah. You didn't feel that?
I did, but I like it.
So maybe next time someone talks to you and you feel something that you like,
Then I say, okay, maybe not
Maybe
medicine,
not.
maybe not. Yeah.
Question here.
You're welcome.
Take your
We
time.
have that effect.
Breathe.
We have that effect.
I think there's a couple of assumptions in your question. One is that there are traumas that, maybe sure, there's traumas that I haven't seen, but I'm not aware of them. And the other assumption is it takes work for me to face my trauma and not run away from it. And I just want to name that those are some assumptions. Because maybe I see a trauma and I want to go straight towards it without any fear, right? So I just want to name that there are a few assumptions there. And they're not bad assumptions, right? They're not bad assumptions, but there's a way that you're framing the question of, it kind of sounds like what is the thing inside of you that has scared you that you've had to stop and turn around and face, and I want to name that might not be everybody's story.
I mean, I learned with you that if there was something that you felt fear from while in medicine space, to always move towards it, and that was one of the best lessons that I had. So I agree. Maybe it's not something that you turn away from or close a door to, or hide. And let's meet as friends, and I'll tell you my story. I think, yeah. I mean, I don't think this is the place where I necessarily need to be like, this is the weight that I've been carrying to be even resilient. I live in a space of joy and love, and sure, shit's been hard. You want to go around the circle and tell me what your trauma is? Yeah, and is that necessary for us to reach a connection on a human scale? I don't know if it is. I mean, and I'd say, please come up to me, and I'd love to talk to you about our traumas. Yeah, but yeah, one-on-one. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I think the other thing that we all have to hold and remind ourselves is that vulnerability is a powerful, beautiful thing. It can be a portal, and all of us don't have the same entry point of vulnerability, the same level of safety in order to move into that sort of level of vulnerability. And so even in just thinking about what it has taken to turn towards some of those traumas that have existed, that are continuing to exist, what I know I have often needed more than a drug or a psychedelic that does that thing is to be in space with people where I am safe to be seen, where I am safe to bring all of myself in, including the silly parts, right? Including the 5-year-old version of me that didn't have that experience of harm, right? And how we talked about this earlier when we're thinking about women and women's healing, that often the things that we're healing from aren't about being women. It's about living in a world that projects the things that they project onto us that are anti-women.
I see your hand. I want to invite you to explore where that question comes from for you, and also, I don't know your name, but you're asking me to tell you my deepest trauma on a stage where there's a recording, and I'm on the microphone, and like, it might be curiosity, but there's a way that curiosity doesn't honor my humanity, really, and the fullness of who I am. You're asking for a piece of me, but the piece that you're asking is the deepest, darkest piece of me. And, Akua said, let me actually invite you into relationship with me first before we have these conversations of the deepest, darkest piece of me, so you can know all of me and sense all of me. And then if we're in relationship and it feels good, then I will show you the deepest, darkest piece of me. And so I want you to take this lesson with this invitation that she's inviting you, and also this push that I'm giving you around coming here and asking us to all share our deepest, darkest parts on a panel that's Black women. And so much is always asked of us to give our deepest, darkest parts without relationship, without reciprocity, just because I've asked for it. And I want you to be in inquiry around that for yourself.
I think this is going to be our last question.
I want to thank you for your advocacy, and also, I think I said what I needed to say to him in a way that he could hear it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Curiosity. We're so excited, like, yay, and then whoop, it's like you can't take that back when you put it out there. My original point I was actually going to make is, as a teacher, I've had young girls start their period with me, and it has been, whew, it's bittersweet because I'm not a parent, I'm not a family member, and balancing that line of I want to empower this child, that it's okay, because I had mine when I was young, and thought I was dying. I don't know how you felt, I don't want to share how it happened. For me, it was like, it's everywhere! And so I just wanted to share that I think it's important to create, even if you're not a family member, a safe place for young women to go to. If that makes sense. Like, you know, just as I do, doesn't mean everyone else does. But I agree, there needs to be more teachers that are like, oh, honey, it's okay. You know, it's not, oh!
Or even
More
having little
humans.
packets,
All
right?
of us.
Little packages.
We get to celebrate.
Yeah,
Ziploc-
with like
Ziploc
Ziploc bags
bags.
and little informational about congratulations,
Right.
you started your period.
Right.
I am so proud of you. Here's a couple of things that you should know. And then maybe even at the beginning of the school year, like sending the parents, like, hey, just a heads up, kids this age tend to start their periods. They might start it at school. Here's some information that I like to share when people start their periods at school. If this is something that you absolutely do not want me to share with your child, please let me know if they start their period at school. That way parents can consent to it, and then you have the things that you can give them, right? And you can do it in different levels, right? Level 1 is I give them this little informational with the packet, and they can spend time with me and talk about it. Level 2 is they get the packet and the informational. Level 3 is parents like, I don't want you to talk to them at all. Well, I'm also not gonna let your kid bleed all over the seat, so they will get this little baggie that has some maxi pads in it.
No.
I want to make sure they're educated by the right person. I was just doing casual, chocolate and a little pad in school is what I do. And I've actually never had a problem. I work in a very religious area, so I was nervous doing that. I was like, welcome to Woman, honey. There's the back.
And also thinking about how this is information that we want, if you were in a classroom, all of your students to know about this, right? So even this idea of sending this out to the parents to let them know this is what's happening for all of our students, right? We all have bodies, and being able to learn about them is really, really important.
And just one push, I don't think that educating people that are gonna menstruate or young children that are gonna menstruate about periods is only the domain of the science teacher. I think that when we talk about it takes a community, it's the aunties, it's the person at the grocery store, it's all of us. So there's not a place for you in that. You could say, I wanna opt out, like I don't want to, but I also just wanna say that like when we're really talking about community and we're really talking about bringing up the next generation, all of us have a role in what that is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, I want to firstly thank these amazingly brilliant, powerful, strong, funny, playful, pleasureful women today on this panel. I want to thank y'all for showing up, for your questions, for your curiosities, for being in this circle and inviting folks into this circle as well. And I want to know if there's anything that you all want us to leave with that are any final thoughts, words, feelings, offerings.
What would you like us to leave with?
Yeah.
When we talk about the blood of Jesus, they're actually talking about the blood of us. That's it. Thanks for coming out. God bless. Good night.